Hey everybody, it's meteorologist Brad Panovich here, talking about our weekend system. Now, we've got cold air in place today. It was 21, 22 this morning. It was very cold in a lot of locations. Cold, dry air in place today and Saturday. And that's going to kind of set the stage for what's heading our way this weekend. Now, here's a look at what's currently going on around the country. I'm doing a quick loop here to kind of show you all that cold air moving in. I'm going to go to the surface map here. And what I'm going to do is turn on the current temperatures. And you're going to notice we've got some really cold air being pushed in around this big area of high pressure. You see it right here? It's pumping in cold, dry air into the Carolinas. And we've got this storm system out west, which is then going to be pushing to the east. And when it pushes to the east, it's going to tap into some of this really cold air. You can see it showing up there. Let me turn the satellite image off. And you can see this cold air in place. I'm going to turn off the winds and just show you the cold air in place. Look at this, a little taste of Arctic air coming in across the Great Lakes. And that's moving into the southeast. And that's going to set the stage for potentially some icy weather on Sunday morning. One of the things I'm looking at too is the dew point temperature, how cold and dry this air is. You see these dew points are generally, let me pop the dew points up here. We'll go back here and pop those up so you can see them. The dew points across most of this area are really dry. That dry air, those yellows and kind of lighter shades of red, that's really dry air. The moist air is pushed all the way down into the Gulf of Mexico. So two things going on: dry, cold air set up, and that means potentially some icy weather as we go into the day on Sunday. So let me show you this setup. All right, let's start with what's happening right now. This is 5 o'clock tonight. We'll go into the future here, and we'll kind of show you the setup as we go through the weekend. So dry today and dry tomorrow. Now, what's interesting, the guidance is having a little trouble here because I actually think a lot of this is going to be snow or ice up in here. It's depicting a lot of rain where there's not actually rain. And that's why I'm a little wary of what's happening here in the Carolinas. So we go into basically tomorrow afternoon. A lot of this initial green you're seeing on the map, probably not reaching the ground. This is going to be evaporating. And that's actually problematic because remember that cold, dry air I showed you? Well, high pressure is centered up here over Ontario, and it's pumping in some cold, dry air. Now, this high, if it were to anchor there, or that parent high, we call it, sits there for a while, this would be a big problem. But this is actually going to be pushing east at the same time the low pressure is traveling this way. So this is kind of what we call a transient setup where the cold air is probably not going to be able to establish itself very long. But with this initial precipitation falling here and evaporating, this will cool the air across the Carolinas in those typical wedge locations. So I would anticipate some really cold air at the surface here. And this would be a sleet, freezing rain setup as we go into Saturday night into Sunday morning with this first wave. Now, some of that cold air might still be trapped up against the Blue Ridge, so that as this second wave of moisture comes in early Sunday morning, that you see potentially more ice mixing in. So you're seeing the red show up here, and this is 5 o'clock on Sunday morning. So that potential that we're going to have, let me go back to that, and I'll go back. I don't know why I jumped so quickly there. But we'll potentially have some ice sitting up across most of these locations as we go through the weekend. So that's my concern, is that we're potentially going to see that ice kind of linger in those areas across the Piedmont. It looks like the guidance is reloading here, so give it a second and I'll show you again. So again, it's this second surge of moisture coming in on Sunday morning that potentially has some ice in there. So again, this is 6:26 on Sunday morning. You see the kind of orange, that's freezing rain, some snow in the higher elevations. Now, I don't expect this to last long in this location. It's going to be brief. But right in here, these areas right here, that's typically where the cold air holds on a little bit longer. So, you know, these areas from Hickory to Boone to Mount Airy, Statesville North, I mean, these are areas I would watch potentially that ice holds on a little bit longer, because you can see through the morning hours, notice how the ice hangs on there for a while until it eventually by noon starts to break up and push out. But potentially that's going to drop some pockets of ice in there. And just to show you the probabilistic, what we look at for chances of seeing 1/10 of an inch of ice, if you look carefully, this is the chance of seeing 1/10 of an inch of ice. Now, Charlotte South, it's about a 1 to 5%, goes to about 10% from Charlotte to Mooresville. But once you get to Interstate 40, and especially back here from Lenoir up towards the Yadkin Valley, you're getting into that 40, 50, even 60% chance of seeing 1/10 of an inch of ice. And one of the things I like to look at in these situations is blending all the models. What do all the models, blend them together, kind of give you an idea of the amount. So this is one of those model blenders of ice. And we'll see the freezing rain potential as we go all the way to Monday morning. So this is basically through 1 a.m. Monday morning. So Sunday night, we'll go into Monday morning and I'll stop this. And you could see 7 p.m. by 7 p.m. Monday, we've got some, marginal ice around Greensboro, 500s, Hickory just a little bit. But those areas north of Charlotte along Interstate 40 and especially up here on the eastern facing slopes of the Blue Ridge, potentially a brief mix of ice. Now, there's also some snow in this setup as well, because in this setup, we will see snow mixing in, especially in the higher elevations, and likely some sleet. Remember, sleet goes into the models as snow. That's why sometimes when you see snowfall maps, people are like, oh, look at all this snow. The model guidance doesn't always distinguish freezing rain, sleet, and snow. It sometimes takes all three of those, combines them, and makes it snow. That's why model maps are always overestimations of how much snow you're going to get. But if we blend all the models together for accumulated snow through Monday night, I'll stop this 7 p.m., same time frame. You could see there is some significant snow up here in Virginia, and the mountains will see. Now, right away, I was like, oh, a tenth of an inch in Charlotte. Well, that's probably because of sleet mixing in, or the little bit of freezing rain. So I wouldn't get too caught up. But you see Hickory, 3/10, a half an inch. Greensboro, that's likely sleet accumulation, because there will be sleet and freezing rain. But back here in the mountains, you're looking at a pretty good amount of snow, because even on the back side of this, we'll see snow. And then up into Virginia, West Virginia, up into the mid-Atlantic, you see those totals really ramp up as you head to the north and east. So we've got some time to keep an eye on it, but if you are traveling early on Sunday morning, here's Sunday morning at 6 a.m., I would be very, very cautious traveling up in these locations to the northwest of Charlotte along Interstate 40 between Asheville and Greensboro, and then up into the mountains in Southwest Virginia. Of course, I will post updates over the next 24 hours, because a lot of key things can still happen. The low pressure is tracking through the Ohio Valley. You can see it up here. You see the low tracking up towards Louisville. We got to watch that. If that thing tracks a little further south, that could bring more cold air into play and could be more of an ice threat for the Carolinas. Again, we're not looking at snow per se in this setup. This setup is either cold rain, a little bit of sleet, or ice. There's really not a scenario right now where this would be a snow event for us, just because it is trending so far north. We would have to have this low track down here and the high establish itself. There's a chance it could track a little bit further south, but right now it's tracking more in this direction. So this would be a very big jump to go from rain to snow. I just don't see that happening. The airs are usually much smaller up in that range. So we'll keep an eye on it. We've got time. I'll be working today at 4, 5, and 6 on NBC Charlotte. Make sure you tune in. Of course, I will post updates throughout the weekend.